In your occasion, I have another step to do just tonight. Verify this, verify that. Okay, everything is working. Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi Kalayim Perik Ches Halacha Dalid. We are going to be learning the last full daf of the 8th chapter. Behemshech to the Mishnahs speaking about the animal, or as we'll see today, perhaps the plant of the Adnei Hasada. That even though we're learning about Kilei Behema, nevertheless, the Mishnah now and the whole daf today will be part off on a tangent regarding other animals, simply wanting to know how are they defined. Behema, Chaya, Adam, plant. It's mamash going to be unbelievable. We're going to learn unbelievable halachas today regarding the definitions of certain animals. Now, let me just say like this, that the context of this conversation began with Kalayim, but it's going to expand to, just to remember, the last thing we learned about is that the Adnei Hasada, the Negeya, in purity, it has a din ka'adam. Concerning all else, we're going to repeat again today the different options. Let's say it's going to have a din of an animal and not of an adam. And we have to understand like this, Chevre, even in the animal kingdom itself, we have Behema v'Chaya. Behema and Chaya share the commonality concerning Dinei Tuma, that they both convey Tuma, both B'mago u B'masa. Esheretz, meaning the Shmoyne Shiratzim that are now dead, a carcass of the Shmoyne Shiratzim that are enumerated in Parsha Shemini, they convey Tuma through contact, through Maga, but they do not convey Tuma through Masa. So there is a leniency by Shiratzim. On the other hand, the quantity needed to convey Tuma by Esheretz is more chamur, because by Esheretz, even only the amount of a adasha, a piece, only in the size of a lentil, is going to convey Tuma through contact. By Behema v'Chaya, the minimum piece of a Behema v'Chaya, of a carcass of a Behema v'Chaya, is going to be of a Kazayas or larger. So remember that concerning the opening up of the continuation of the Mishnah. And we're learning today Daf Ayin Dalad. If I didn't mention Mamash on top of the Amid, we're going to have a machloikis in the Mishnah between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim concerning a dog, whether a dog is a min behema or whether a dog is a min chaya. The nafkamina again won't be about kalayim. All right, whether it is having two different creatures schlep an animal together. We began the sugi by saying that even two animals of the min of behema themselves may not be hitched to a wagon together. You can't crossbreed even min behema with another min behema. But again, we're going to be expanding today and moving on to other dinim. Just as an example, what happens, Kevan, if I tell you that I'm selling to you all of my behemoths, and I have many types of animals, is my dog included in the sale? Just one afkamina that we'll see. We have to know whether a dog is a min behema or a min chayim. And the Mishnah will explicitly say, well, something that we quoted, I think, yesterday, that a man and Adam is allowed to plow and to pull and to schlep with all of the other species. The issue of schlepping something together does not include Adam, and we'll see the Gemara will bring a source, a scriptural source for this halacha. Now, what we will have today will be a total of 6 cases in which Beis Shammai will remain in doubt as to this item's accurate halachic definition. 6 cases. In 3 of the 6, Beis Hillel will also align with Beis Shammai by having a doubt. In the other 3, Beis Hillel will determine, just as an example. Again, we're really going to broaden it out. Let's speak a little bit now about plants right now. There's a huge difference between an edible plant there are certain edible plants, I'm sorry, that sometimes will be classified as a tree and other times as a vegetable. Lamay nafkamina, what difference is there whether something is a tree or a vegetable? Well, kile hakedem, right? That's already in our topic. We learned so many times that something that's classified as a tree is allowed to be planted in a vineyard. If it's classified as a vegetable, it cannot. Arla, the dinim of arla are only by a tree. There are no dinei arla by a vegetable. Same thing by meiser. Let me speak about meiser. Listen, guys, both a tree and a vegetable and seeds, all of them have to be tithed. But just as an example, the seder of meiser is changed between the first, second year versus the third year, fourth, fifth versus the sixth, right? First and second, meiser sheni. Third year, meiser ani. Fourth and fifth, meiser sheni. Sixth year, meiser ani. So when we want to know what year does this belong to, it will depend. When it comes to a tree, guys, remember these rules. The classification of a fruit is from when it had its chanata. Let's translate the word chanata from when the fruit emerged, from when it budded. That is on what year to determine how it will be tithed. When it comes to a vegetable, it has to do with when it was picked. When it comes to a seed, it has to do with when it took root. So we will see certain items, we have a suffix, whether it's a seed or whether it's a vegetable. Lomay nafkamina, just for meisres you have a nafkamina. And we're going to move on, ultimately finishing today's daf, speaking about the Amma Tiriksin or Amma Taraxin. Clearly it's pronounced Amma Tiriksin here in the Yerushalmi, it's with Hayud. And in other words, in the second Beis HaMikdash, the separation that they made between the holy and the holy of holies, between the Kodesh and the Kodesh Kachim, was not done with an Amma thick wall as they did it in Bayis Rishon, but they did it with double curtains. And we'll speak about that, and we'll speak about why they needed to make two curtains, why wasn't one curtain enough, and it's going to be a real fascinating daf that's going to be touching on a very broad areas in Shas. Daf Ayin Daled Amud Aleph, all the way on top of the Amid. So when it came to the Adnei Hasadne, so one other detail, only Rabbi Yossi says B'tamois ba'oil ka'adam, implying that the Chachamim disagree. Whatever it is, the Adnei Hasadne, it's achaya across the board. You understand? So now that we have a machlokes tanoim regarding certain creatures, what definition do they have? So now continues the Mishnah, hakupad, a hedgehog, Kevin will find a picture, or a porcupine. For that, I don't need a picture. And now no one will disagree about the halacha of a kupad. But here comes the next one, where there is a machlokes. V'chuldas hasanoyim, a stone martin. Here you can put up a picture. So the Beis Hillel holds that they are both in the category of a chaya. Okay, Chuldas Hasanoim, the Marav Fulda writes that it's a type of weasel that grows bisneh. It lives in the bushes, but not everyone agrees it's a min chaya. Who disagrees? So the Mishnah, look at the nusach of the Mishnah. Chuldas Hasanoim. Rabbi Yossi says that Beis Shammai say that there is a doubt that we don't know. We don't know whether what. We don't know what's the doubt, whether it's a chaya, whether it's a sheretz. Now, guys, choyled is the name that the Torah gives to one of the Shemona Shiratzim. And as we spoke at in the intro, there is both a chumrah by something being a sheretz, and both there is a leniency for something being a sheretz. Right? A sheretz is not metama b'masa. It only conveys tuma through contact. But when there is contact, a much smaller piece of the Shemona Shiratzim couldn't convey tuma, only even if it's only in the size of a lentil, versus if it would be a chaya, you have to have at least a kazayas amount of it. And because of Beis Shammai's disagreement with the Tanakama, with the Chachamim, that they say that chuldas hasanoim vadai chaya, they have a doubt. Therefore, they say that you have to be machmer on both sides. On one hand, metame the kazayas b'masa, because if it would be a sheretz, it wouldn't be metame at all. No, so it's metama because it's more chomer than that it can be. No, if it's a sheretz, it's not metama at all. If it's a chay, it's metama because it's. But when it comes to direct contact, v'chadosha b'magom. So here we have the first machlokes today, in which others let's say the others will be Beis Hillel, they have no doubt. Beis Shammai has a doubt how to classify this unique type of stone martin, Chuldas Hasanoi. Weiter. Shoir Bar. Now, Shoir Bar is a wild ox. Don't forget, guys, I know when people think about an ox is one of the three categories of behemoth. An ox, the oxen that we speak about are domesticated animals. But there's something called an ox that grows outside. Bar means like braisa, outside the city. A wild ox. So here we have a machloikas. The Tanakama holds min behema. Rabbi Yossi holds min chaya. Now let me give you a nafkamina. Just to know what difference is it? Concerning kila behema, there's absolutely no difference, whether it's a min behema or a min chaya. But let me go to the basics. Fats of a behema, chelav of a behema is more treif than a chazer, right? There's a chiyuv kares, God forbid, if someone eats it. Fats of a chaya are lachatchila allowed to be eaten, even midrabanan. On the other hand, blood of a behema doesn't have to be covered. Blood of a chaya, like the blood of a fowl, has to be covered after it's slaughtered. So that will be a nafkamina. Is it a behema? Is it a chaya? It's a big nafkamina. Is the chel of mutter, the chel of asur? Next topic. Kelev, a dog. Here we go. Machloikes. The chachamim hold that a kelev is a min chaya. The Meir holds that it's a min behema. Now, what I mentioned before about chaya behema, chelev, and blood is not shaykh to a dog because a dog is not kosher. So no one is slaughtering a dog and no one is eating any part of the dog. When I say no one means ayid. You go to China, they have plenty of that. So lamay nafkamina, whether a dog is in the category of a chaya, whether the dog is in the category of a behema, look inside the Rashirilio. It's a big one on the right side. It's a little bit more than halfway down. It's around 16 lines from the bottom of the Amid. Kelev min chaya. So he says gavaldik. What's the difference? The nafkamina lamagdish chayosoi. If someone says all of my chayas, I'm consecrating to God. Just giving you one nafkamina. Same thing would be with a sale. If I say that I'm selling to you all of my chayas, is the dog included or is the dog not included? That will be a nafkamina. Okay, weiter says the Mishnah. Hachazir min behema. Here, there's no argument. Okay, so let's go back to what we just said from the Rashirilio. If a person sells the other all of his behemoths, that if he owned pigs, he owns it no longer. It's sold. Ha'arid is a certain type of wild donkey. Here, it's a min chaya. Now, let me tell you another. Here, by min chaya, not only if I sold my behemoths is the arid not included. If I sold my chayas is the arid included. But now let's go back to kalayim. In other words, the first Mishnah said, not the first Mishnah. This Mishnah says ramach. Remember that the ramach is like a wild horse. So a wild horse and a regular horse could be hitched to the same wagon. It's not kilei behema. And aroid cannot be hitched with a donkey. Gavaldik. Because donkeys are in the category of behemoths, and an aroid is in the category of a chaya, which means it's not the same. Hapil, vahakoif, an elephant and a monkey are both considered min chayam. Now, what's the chiddush? What's the chiddush that an elephant and a monkey is a chaya? Well, the pshat is that it's not a behema. It's not a behema, even if they are domesticated. But there is a fascinating Rashirilio. And we're going to have every now and then today all of these fascinating midrashim. Guys, here we have to look inside. Look inside the Rashirilio, the left side, 10 lines from the top. And he writes like this. Vishomati mipi chacham chasid and a makubal Rav Mishulam Zatzal. Alahi the Tanya bebrachas bepede koroya. That koroya peel, if a person sees an elephant, or if they see a kuf, or if they see a kipoif, they make the bracha mishana habriyos. The kashili Why do you make, wow, God creates diversity of creatures when you see an elephant, when you see a monkey? How is that different from other animals? Every animal is different. That's a great question. And this Mekubal told me that Ashadilio, the guys listen to this, during the era of the flood, God took his retribution from humankind, that God turned people into monkeys. Look at him. So it's not like the Apikoides said, Darwin, that the man came from monkey. The punkt fakir, that as a punishment to mankind, certain men became monkeys. And upilin, and some men became elephants. That's why a monkey looks like a person. Now, how did the elephant come from a person? Upil nami yoimrim. And concerning an elephant, they say that elephants understand human conversation. And he says more than that. And I found a proof to this Mekubal from the words in Bereshis Rabbah. The Garcinan Hasam Arba'a Devarim Nishtana B'doid Enosh. This is way before. This is when mankind began to serve idolatry. The Haharim Nasu Turashim. The Hischalameis Marchish. The Nasu Paneim Kekupim. The Nasu Chulam Azikin. No, it's clearly he finds that God, there was a mutation in mankind, and some men became monkeys, some men became elephants, and therefore that's the chiddush. In other words, even though, let's go back to what we ended up learning yesterday, that Rabbi Yossi says when it comes to the Adnei Hasad, they give off tumas oil like Adam. So there's a chiddush that the peel and the kuf do not give off tumas Adam. They remain a min chayim, even though they came from man. But there was a total transformation. And now the Mishnah concludes that that now coming back to the dinim of kilei behema, that a man is allowed to pull and to plow with all other types, even though, like Danny was saying, the logic was like atzar balachayim, people that give a tama dekra, and if it's tzar balachayim, because people two that are very not like. They work so differently. They don't work well together. We don't say that by Yod. And we'll see again. Everything has to be based on a puzzle. Okay, beginning with the Gemara. The Gemara goes back.
We didn't learn about the animal and the fish.
We did not learn about an animal and a fish. And what we did learn, not here yet, is that the Isser of Kilei Behema is that you can't have an animal and a fish schlepping a boat at the same time. That we learned, remember, Danny? And there were certain boats that when they went through these narrow canals, so there was this patent of putting an animal on the dry land near the banks of the river to pull, and fish pulling it. There was such a possibility. Whether that's permitted or us, I don't remember, but we learned about it.
Yep.
Okay, let's go back. Now, the first din in the Mishnah was this prutiyos. So as we explained, that prutiyos are mules whose yichus cannot be determined. So you have all these simanim, and then you have a certain type of mules that you can't know who the mother is, who the father is. Since we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, not like the Chachamim, according to Rabbi Yehuda, only when you know that the mother of mule A and the mother of mule B were the same type, either horse or donkey, only then can you work together with them. Since you don't know, asuras. That was the first din of the Mishnah. Haramach. So we said that Ramach is a certain type of wild horse. Mutar. Mutar means that it is still in the category of a horse. So says the Gemara, what do we mean by Ramach? Ramacha Deloy Kilinos. Ramach is a type of horse that cannot be restrained with any type of kalim that they put on the horses to be able to direct the horses, to ride on the horses. It doesn't accept a saddle. It doesn't accept yokes. It doesn't accept reins because it's wild. That's the meaning of Ramach.
They call the bronc.
Huh?
The bronc horse.
Bronc horse. Kamada Tamer b'nei haramachim. Interesting. When Yelas Esther, We have the couriers that they went the certain writers Shtaranim B'nei Haramachim. B'nei Haramachim means this is where we have a source of the word Ramachim. Now, I want to go back to the Rashirilio. This is all fascinating because he writes that, you know what a Ramach is? He writes a zebra. And that will be a big chiddush, that even though a zebra is wild, that a zebra, according to this, is in the category of a horse concerning Kilei Behemah. It's you see in the Gemara, the left side, the Rashirilio of the Gemara, Namacha de Loikalinas. Sus, mid-body. Mid-body means a wild sus. She'ein adam yachol lasum boy resem. Okay. Then he says, when B'divrei Haramam Zal Nira came, shehu sus mid-body, shekoiden zebra belaz. The Talmud the Shari Lakulu Sfira Lohu Achem Minom Hava Va'arak Latamon. The reason why they are of the same species because our Tana holds that they began as horses, they ran away, and they became Vildachayas. But so now they present themselves to be wild. There can be many generations of wild, but they originated from the regular category of horses. And now let's go more to the Adnei Asadeh. Says the Gemara.
Is that an explanation on zebras also, or just on the concept of a wild horse?
That's if it's a zebra, so then it would even go to a zebra. Danny, we're learning mamash. We're touching on fascinating things, and it will be very geschmack to hear from the people that claim they know the sciences to find out how far is the current sciences away from the emes and how close is it.
I think we should do another field trip.
All right, Adnei Hasadeh.
100%.
Let's go find the Adnei Hasadeh. So Adnei Hasadeh, the Mishnah says, even though some are great as Adnei is a chaya. But Rabbi Yossi says that Tuma, they give up Tuma soil. So here we go. Here's the challenge. So really, let me say Bekitzer. There are three opinions of what Adnei Hasadeh is. Mountain gorillas. Rav Meir of Koloinimus says that they are a creature, mamish chay, that they look like a person, but they are attached to the ground with an umbilical cord, and they have a certain range of motion, of movement, as far as the cord can take them. And they're so wild that if you enter that range, they're going to kill you. The only way of killing them is you stand outside that range and you cut off their umbilical cord with arrows. And then this Adnei Hasadeh, interesting, is called Yadua. See, remember the laws of Kishuv, right? We learned this in the Chumash, we learned this in the Rambam, that there's a creature called Yadua, and when you take one of its bones and you put it under your tongue, you put it under your armpit, then all sorts of Kishuv begins to happen. That bone comes from this creature. And the third opinion of Adnei Hasadeh is that it's a vegetable. Eloma, it's a vegetable that looks just like a person. And the Mishnah is saying that it's matama to masoil. Now, how to fit all of that in these words of the Gemara will become very problematic. So, Yasi Arkai. Yasi is one of the Amiroim. Arkai means that he ran away, the yeshiva dropout, so to say. He went away, and he went to who knows where, and he came back with stories. He came back having certain trips and experiences, and he came back with information. And he said, Bar Nash the Turu, that Adnei Hasadeh is a man of the mountain. Now, if the man of the mountain is in reference to it of what Rav Meir Koloinim has said, then the next words will fit. He lives from its tabor, from its belly button. And if Tibure, once you sever that umbilical cord, loy chayim. Even if it means some sort of vegetable, that it's a vegetable that looks like a person, you can say that the vegetable is connected to the ground from its center, not from its feet, not from its hand, but from its tabur. And the way you disconnect this vegetable is by, look, it's harder, but it can still fit. If the Adnei Hasadeh is a mountain gorilla, then it's very difficult to put this into the words of the Gemara. How does a mountain gorilla or a big ape, how do they live from their tibure? Like that's the challenge that many have, and that substantiates more than anything the shita of Rav Meir of Koloinimus regarding this Adnei Hasadeh. What Hashem did in Makas Oreg and Mitzrayim is He brought all types of wild animals to afflict the Egyptians. That Hashem moved the earth to bring the Adnei Hasada into Mitzrayim. That is what we learned. Because they have to be connected to the ground to be alive. Quite fascinating. Okay, turning to Daf Ayin Dayet.
So are we, according to that opinion, do we just believe that this stomach-connected beast doesn't exist anymore? Like it just...
Who said it doesn't exist? Just because the people that know nothing don't know. Nanny, you're too intimidated by the wisdom of the world. Let me tell you something. We should go to Brazil. You're going to find that in Brazil things that you never heard in America can exist. You American. The American thinks the whole world is American. You have no idea.
Mountain gorillas sounds like something that is not native to America, but we know it exists.
Correct.
Not some beast that's with an umbilical cord to the ground. That sounds like a fairy tale.
No, it sounds like that the world, with all of its arrogance, doesn't know yet enough. That's what it sounds like today. We don't know. Every time we discover new things. So why do we have to go in the world to discover it? We discovered it here in Yerushalmi. And let someone go out there and corroborate. All right. Rabbi Yossi holds, that's the chiddush, that metamois ba'oyo, like a dead human being, whatever the Adnei Hasada is. So where do you get that from? So says the Gemara, Rab Chame Bar Ukva, in the name of Rabbi Yossi ben Chanina, Tama de Rabbi Yossi, in Yerushalmi, Tama means the source of Rabbi Yossi, is when it says in Parshas Chukas, concerning Tumas oil, which is unique to human beings. The words al panei hasadeh is mamish superfluous. We're speaking about a cholol. A cholol is a man that was felled in war. A corpse laying on the field. That's exactly where they lay. They lay al panei hasadeh. And furthermore, why do you have to write al panei hasadeh? And if a person didn't fell in the field, if a person passed away today in a hospital bed, same din, same tumah. So the words al panei hasadeh is superfluous. So Rabbi Yossi says that is adding this creature, bigodel al panei hasadeh, that which grows from the panei hasadeh. And now let's go with a related Brais. Says the Brais that yoroidois, guys, yoroidois, a big debate what it is. It's some sort of flying creature that could be poisonous. It's not like other flying creatures, okay? In other words, one might have thought that it's not in the category of foul, but it is. Let's say that Yeroidus is a bat. Now, I just want to say like this. Let's go just to Dini Tumentaro, that unlike the corpse of a behemoth, of a chaya, birds, even when they're dead, do not convey tuma b'mago ubamasa. If it's a kosher species bird, if a person swallows it, not kosher, so it's metama them and their clothing when it goes down their base habliya. And if it's a non-kosher type of fowl, it does not impart in tuma at all. So therefore, we have to know whether one might have thought that let's say it's a bat, that a bat is a chaya. It's not. It's like a bird. Hana'amiyos. Na'amiyos is an ostrich. An ostrich does not fly. I know it runs very quick. I know it flaps its wings. It doesn't take flight. So you would think it's not a bird. You would think it's a chaya. You should know that the Medrash says that Moshe Rabbeinu taught a whole nation somewhere in Africa how to ride ostriches. And the benefit of an ostrich is that an ostrich is not intimidated by poisonous snakes over there in the desert in Africa. And whenever there was a whole Maisa that there was a city that was surrounded by snakes, that they rode on ostriches and they were able to conquer the city. That's how Moshe Rabbeinu became a king. And they have a din of a bird, even though they don't take flight. So therefore, for example, it's a tamei bird. Its carcass doesn't convey tuma at all. Next, nachash, chiddush, that a nachash has a din of a chaya. What's the chiddush that a nachash has a din of a chaya? It's mamish fascinating. You would have thought that a nachash should also be like the Adnei Hasadeh, that the nachash should be metama ka'adam. Why would you think so? Says that Asher Elio, again, in the middle of the right column. He says, because since the nachash, originally before it was cursed, the nachash was walking on 2 feet. I'm reading inside that Asher Elio. So we have today the monkey and the elephant. Now let's speak about the snake. The nachash, before it got cursed, he used to speak. as it says, "Vayiftach Hashem es pi hanachash." I'm sorry, it doesn't say the way it says by the donkey that God opened up its mouth, because by the donkey over there of Bilam, it was a chiddush that it opened up its mouth. It doesn't say that. It says "Vayomer elo isha, vayomer hanachash elo isha stam." So first of all, we know that the nachash, by nature, the way God made it, the nachash can speak the way people speak. Furthermore, the Chazal tell us, he quotes in Sveita Babli, Daf Testament Beis, the Bekoima Zekufa Yoilach, that it walked upright, it walked on 2 feet. In other words, a part of its curse was that God removed its feet. So therefore, when our Mishnah says, when this Braisa says, I'm sorry, that a nachash is kachaya, it's to tell you a chiddush, the ein by lachshav adam hu kamay ad me'asad. Wow. Now, if nachash would have a din of adam, what would be the din? So the Rashi really goes on. Then you would have thought that if you harness a plow to a snake and to an animal, it would be okay. Because we learned in our Mishnah that a man could be hitched together with an animal. So that's the Kamash Malan, that no, that a nachash is a chaya. And therefore, you can't have your wagon being schlepped by a nachash and a behema. Take 2 snakes if you want more snake power. Guys, I want you to know that there are snakes in Brazil, Danny, that they're so big that it's oy the boin shalaylam. I'm sure there are names to them. They're humongous. They're like humongous. Huh? Anaconda. And if you want to go over there, you can take a wagon and hitch it to the anaconda, and you'll go on a nice ride. That's what we're learning. That was the first topic we learned about today. Well, actually, we began today with the kupad. But then Chuldas Sasanoim, so we learned the machloikis. What's the machloikis? That Tanakama says it's a chayim. This weasel that lives in the bushes. But Rabbi Yossi says, Beis Shammai had a doubt whether chaya, whether sheretz. So now we're going to learn about 6 cases, even though there'll be a 7th, but we're going to learn about 6 cases in which Beis Shammai has a doubt, and we're going to be covering a wide range of halachas. 3 out of the 6, Beis Hillel has no doubt, but 3 of the 6, they also have a doubt. So let's begin. Chia says, Rabbi Yechanan, in a total, including this one, Shisha Sveikoisein, you have 6 doubts. Sloth. Guys, we learned about this in Brachas. We learned about it's a good opportunity to review. So generally, the rule is that if you want to know how to differentiate between a vegetable and a tree, I'm going to use my Gabai's words of residual. Anything that you plant once and its roots remain in the ground, and that product residually every year gives off product, that's called a tree. Normally, the definition of a vegetable is that you have to plant it, it grows, but when you uproot it, you have to plant again to get the same. There's no residual. So therefore you would think salaf, which is a caper bush, is a tree because its roots remain in the ground and it regenerates every year. Nevertheless, for some reason, we learned this in Brachas, either because it's very low, because it looks like a very low, small bush, or other reasons or other ways to define tree vegetable. Beis Shammai has a doubt. And the doubt is whether it's a tree or whether it's a vegetable. Let's go. Hatzalaf be'ilan ke Beis Shammai. Now, be'ilan means not vadai. Maybe it's a tree. Now, the nafkamina between whether it's a tree or vegetable, let me tell you right now. Three nafkaminas, big nafkaminas. Kilei hakerem. Can you plant a caper bush in a vineyard? If it's a vegetable, no. If it's a tree, yes. Remember, we are allowed to plant trees in a vineyard. Number 2, Arla. Arla is only by trees. And number 3, Maisris, like we spoke on the introduction. I'm not going to repeat it. Next thing. Kli Nesed. Now, to begin with, we don't know what Nesed means for sure. Either Nesed means alum, or Nesed means natron, which is some sort of sodium carbonate. And one second. Let me just go back. Beis Hillel holds that slaf is a tree. No, the first 3 that we are learning, only Beis Shammai has a doubt. Now let's go to number 2. What's the issue over here? When it comes to the definition of a utensil, this is the Gabai's most exciting topic. Dine Tuma and Tara. So general rules. A utensil other than earthenware acquires Tuma if the source of Tuma had contact, physical, either outside of it or inside of it. Outside the cup or inside the cup. Klei cheres has two unique dinim. On one hand, if the source of tuma has physical contact outside of an earthenware utensil, won't become tummy at all. On the other hand, if the source of tuma goes inside its airspace, even if it didn't touch it inside, it will impart tuma, or the klei cheres will acquire tuma. So there are many other nafkaminas. Other utensils can be taken to the mikvah. Klei cheres can never be toivel. It won't help. You can't bring it. You can only breaking it makes it pure. So it's important to know whether something is earthenware or not. So this nested material, whatever it is, li beis Hillel, there is no doubt that it has a din of earthenware. No doubt. But Beis Shammai had a doubt. I said correct. So klei nesed b'chli cheres ki Beis Shammai. Cheres means not for sure. Beis Hillel says it's a klei cheres, and like Slav, Beis Hillel says an Elon. Beis Shammai had a doubt on it. Maybe it's not an earthenware, and they're big nafkamina. So if some source of tuma touched it and it's outside, according to Beis Hillel, vadai tohoy. According to Beis Shammai, suffix tamei. Next is our Mishnah. And our Mishnah again is only Beis Shammai. Chuldas hasanoim, this type of bush weasel. So li Beis Hillel, which is the opinion of the Tanna Kama, it's a chaya. And therefore, you have to have a kazayas amount to impart. On the other hand, it imparts tuma when it's dead. Even not through direct contact. A beautiful picture that Kevin brought up. Whether it's the real picture or not, no, that's a cute weasel. When you see that, you're not going to get afraid. I promise you, when you're going to see the Chuldas hasanoim, you're going to go running. Okay. Chuldas hasanoim, Beis Shammai says maybe it's a sheretz. So maybe it imparts tuma even in the piece that's the size of a lentil. These are the first three. Now we're going to learn the next three. But the next three, Beis Hillel agrees with Beis Shammai. They agree, they both have doubts. Halachic doubts. So let's go. Pul hamitzri. Now, it's called an Egyptian bean. Whether it's a cowpea or whether it's some other type of lentil or legume, let's use the word pul hamitzri. And there's a big doubt, but this doubt is unlike all the other doubts. Let me say like this. First of all, in plants themselves, we have what's classified as roim, seeds, and we have that which is classified as vegetables. One of the nafkaminas between who cares whether it's a seed or a vegetable. So let's go by ma'asrot, by maisris, something that took root on the second year of the cycle of Shemitah. It took root, but it was picked on the third year. What year does it belong to? Do you have to give Meiser Sheni or Meiser Ani? Vegetables, what year is this vegetable from? From when it was picked. Vegetables, from when it's picked. Fruits of trees, from when it budded. That's the whole Tu B'Shvat, Hashgacha Pratis we're heading towards. Chanata. But when it comes to seeds, it's from when it took root. Now, the doubt by Pul HaMitzri is an unusual doubt. Because Pul HaMitzri, some people plant them for their seeds. Some people plant them for their pods. If it was planted for their seeds, dinoi seeds, no doubt. If it was planted for their pods, dinoi vegetable, no doubt. But what happens if we don't know what it was planted for? We have a doubt. You have to be noyig like both. It's going to bring many chumras. That means you're going to have to tie that Meiser Sheni and Meiser Ani to cover all your bases. That's the doubt. That's the Pul HaMitzri. And next, the fifth classification that's doubt is an androgynous ba'adam. An androgynous is a human being that has born physically with both male and female characteristics. And we want to know what's the doubt. The doubt is whether this person is classified as a man or as a woman or as a separate category. So I want you to know that this is in honor of our new president, that in Torah, to say there's only two genders, lavdafke. There are two genders, vadai, and there's one gender suffix. So it's amazing. Okay. Now, because of that, just to know, an androgynous must observe stringencies for both male and female. So if you have 9 people and an androgynous, for example, you don't have a minyan. Now, just to know, some people hold that 9, you already have a minyan because the Shechina makes the minyan. But if you're not going to rely on that, you get it? And the question is, what side of the mechitza does the androgen is daven on? That will be the big shaila. I have no idea. When it comes to davening on the side of the mechitza, it has a lot less to do with that person's classification. It has to do with that person's appearance. That's clear. So if people know him to be a man, if everyone knows this is a man, it looks like a man, then he goes on the men's side. If it looks like a woman, it goes on the woman's side. And let's leave it at that. Okay. Koi, can you halachically fix that? I don't think so, because we're not allowed to mutilate our bodies, particularly when it comes to our reproductive organs. So whichever way you're going, you got to leave it the way it is. Okay. Koi or kvi, when I was in yeshiva, they pronounced it kvi. Either it's a buffalo, or we're going to hear from the Gabbai other opinions what the kvi is. So there is a doubt whether it's a chaya, whether it's a behema. Lamay nafkimina. Okay, let's go back. Chaylev and dam. If it's a behema, chaylev asur. If it's a chaya, chaylev mutar. If you shech the kvi, which is kosher, then do you have to cover the blood misafik? Okay. Now the Gemara says that these last three, divrei hakol, that it's a doubt. And now the Gemara says, hold on, it's not only 6, there's a 7th doubt. There's a 7th doubt that everyone agrees that there's a doubt. And what is that? The pronunciation here in the Yerushalmi, if this Gersa is correct, is amoterixin. Just to know what now, what's amoterixin? So let me say like this, that in the first Beis HaMikdash, that was designed beruach hakodesh, to the point that we should not deviate from it. We're not allowed to deviate from it. The space of the kodesh and the kodesh hakachim was separated by 1 amma, upon which there was a wall. The height of the first temple, the roof was 30 ammas up. The way they knew how to build then, going up 30 ammas. 30 ammas is very high. Let's say it's 45 feet or 50 feet. 1 amma of thickness gave the wall enough strength to stand that height. When we built the second Beis HaMikdash, even in the beginning, Gadol Yeh Kavod Habayis Ha'achron Min Harishon, that it was 40 ammas high, and then Hurdus, the evil, made it 100 ammas high. But even when it was 40 ammas high, they knew that 1 amma of thickness won't be enough for the wall to stand. The wall would collapse. You can't with 1 amma go up 40 ammas. Okay, so they're going to put a curtain. But then they had a doubt. What was their doubt? They didn't know whether the space of the Amma is sanctified or should be part of the Kedusha of Kodesh or part of Kodesh HaKachim. They didn't know that. So therefore, they made a double curtain. But Bayis Rishon, people think they made a double curtain for people not to be able to see through. That's not correct, because in the first Bayis, where there was 1 wall, the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur didn't walk through the wall. There was an opening, and we had a machlokes in the Mishnah, whether it was on the northern wall or on the southern wall, and they covered that opening with a curtain, which would mean that when he would walk through the curtain, people can see it. There was no one else there to see in. A curtain with an opening is fine. But the reason why they made a double curtain is because of this doubt. Let's go inside the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Abyoina from Batsura explains, teriksoin. Teriksoin, the word terik is a composite of 2 words in Greek. The word terik means inside. That's what the word means. Soin or sun means outside. It was a doubt whether it's inside the Kodesh HaKodshim or whether the outside of the Kodesh HaKodshim. In other words, there was a suffix mi befnim umi bachutz, and because of that doubt, they dafka made a double curtain. 1 curtain was on the edge of the Kodesh. There was that. Now the curtain had some thickness, but there was, let's say the curtain took up a feet, whatever it took up. There was a little space in between the curtains, and actually when the Kohen Gadol walked in, he walked through the curtains. In other words, he needed to enter on one side, walk to the other side, and then he would enter. I don't remember from Yuma, we Beferish Mishnah which side the wall was. I think the one by the Kodesh, if I remember, was on the northern wall. No, it was on the southern wall. It was by the Menorah. It was by the Menorah. The only doubt was, Danny, how did he walk in there? That was the question. By the Mizbeach, there was even, how did he get there? Did he walk on the wall? Did he walk in the middle? I forgot those details. All of that we have in Masechtas Yuma. And we are in the middle of the sugya, guys, and Mamish will continue the sugya of Amatadix and God willing tomorrow. What a daf. The monkey, the elephant.
Go ahead.
Shkoyach.